I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite Lorecast on the Citadel.
Welcome to the Mass Effect Lorecast, the podcast where we explore the vast universe of lore behind the Mass Effect games. We'll talk about all the details you may have missed, ask the hard questions, and more. Spectres, welcome back to the Mass Effect Lorecast. This is your host, Tom, or Robots, and I'm here as usual with my good buddy and Seven Legend. And Seven, welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I am very happy to be back, and we've got to talk about some big changes.
Some big changes. I know you freaked everybody out on social media yesterday when you were like, "Hey everyone, we've got some big news to tell you," and everyone was like, "Oh my God, are you guys ending the show?" And we're like, "No, we're just changing the time." So this is the second week in a row that we're now recording this on a Monday, and you and I were talking, and we're like, "Why don't we just do it always on Monday?" And that's going to be the new thing now. And we both have reasons why this works better for us. For me, it gives me kind of a full weekend, so I don't have to jam in recording podcasts on Sunday nights. And I know for you, you don't have to scramble home from work in order to hurry up and get a show ready and then record.
Right. And first of all, I love the fact that everyone's first conclusion that they jumped to was the worst possible thing.
Well, that's. I mean, I've talked about this on the show before. I think it's one of those human psychology things. Like, we're much more likely to expect the worst or the best, and reality usually doesn't give us either of those things. It's an evolutionary thing that our brains do. But anyway, so yeah, no, we're not ending the show. It's a survival thing because
we're not ending the show over my cold dead corpse,
right,
floating through space. But you know, I spoke a little bit about it on social media, but going full speed every Sunday from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. for my day job, and then pivoting right into researching and writing for the show right up to showtime, and then wrapping up in total around 8:30 or 9 p.m. local for my time, and doing that every Sunday, it's a long really day. Rough.
It's a long day.
And especially since Sundays are my Fridays, like I've always had a full week. I've already rather had a full week of work at that point. So this new format and this new schedule, more peaceful. Plus I can lead my Monday streams like right into the show, which is what I'm planning to do. That's awesome.
Yeah. And for me, it kind of starts off my week. My Mondays now are like my Monday. It's the start of my work week. So I can be working during the day, and this can be like the last part of my work day. So it works out well for me that way. Plus, you guys can tune in. This actually follows right after the Witcher Lorecast. So if you're watching the Witcher Lorecast and you want to tune into this right afterwards, you can do that. And it just kind of flows from one show right into the next, so it'll be butt up right against it. And we've got some other new changes coming to the show as well. This will be the first episode that we are doing of our new 2 shows every week format. Our shows have been getting longer and longer. We're kind of stretching into about hour-and-a-half episodes now. And often we kind of tackle these like dual topic episodes. So one of the other things we were discussing is, why don't we, instead of giving you guys really long episodes, why don't we just shorten the episodes back down to about 45 minutes, which is roughly where we started, and just deliver you 2 episodes each week. So with the new changes to recording on Monday nights, that means that if you are a patron, you'll be getting your patron episodes on Tuesdays, and the regular episodes will go up on Wednesdays because patrons get their episodes a day early. And then we will record both episodes on Monday, and so we'll stagger the second episode to go out later in the week. So I haven't quite figured it out yet. Maybe we'll put the second episode out on Friday or Saturday, maybe on the weekend. It's kind of a weird. Do you release the episode on the weekend because not everybody listens to podcasts on the weekend, or do you hold it to Monday, or do you put it on Friday? So maybe we'll do a Wednesday, Friday release for the normal episodes and kind of stagger it by 2 days, something like that. But in that case, you end up getting 2 episodes to look forward to every week. So it'll feel like more content, even though it's the same amount of time. But that way, you kind of get staggered episodes. And I know not everybody's commute or workout is an hour and a half long, right? Like that would be a really long workout for an hour and a half, right? Like you're not going to lift weights for an hour and a half. That's a really long time in the gym. So it gives you, it's actually just a better listening, setup based on stats on listening to podcasts. 45 minutes is really kind of the opportune amount of time to listen to a show. So that's the changes, and we hope you guys will enjoy it, getting, episodes more often during the week and that kind of thing. So that's what we're doing. So this week we're actually continuing kind of down the same path we were last week. So what are we talking about, Sam?
Yeah, we're talking about Andromeda. We're talking about more factions within Andromeda. And we are going to be talking about today a militaristic faction within the Angara culture. The expressive, spiritual, purple, blue maned people from Andromeda that we've already discussed. And although we're led to believe that the Angara are the Baba Yetu of alien species, sitting around the campfire singing Kumbaya, this doesn't really necessarily ring true for this faction, the Angaran Resistance.
Okay. So give us the rundown. Who are they? Like, what is the Resistance? Why does it exist? And like, what is it they're actually resisting?
Yeah. Well, in short, the Kett. We spoke on it in episode 20 or 21. I can't really remember which one. But the Kett are the Borg race from Mass Effect Andromeda, that invades the Helios.
Wait. So if they're, hold on. So if resistance is futile, then their resistance itself is also futile?
They would probably think "Vive la Resistance." That's what they would probably say.
Okay.
But it is funny that you say that, because that is the exact phrase that I actually ascribed to the Kett back then in the 20th or 21st episode about, resistance is futile.
Right, because the Borg. Right. But they are a resistance to a group that would say resistance is futile. So I just thought that was kind
perfect yin yang. Yeah. They were written definitely to be that way. And the invasion of the Kett into the Helios cluster prompts the need for a resistance. But, before then, the Scourge, this dark energy storm, it sends the advanced Angara society back into a pre-spaceflight dark age. And if this sounds like you've already heard it before, it's because you have, because we did talk about this back then. But just as a recap, the Angara bounce back. They rediscover spaceflight, but by this time they've already colonized different planets. They have already, spread out amongst the stars. And by the time that they reconnect with the other colonies from which they've been disconnected, they realize they've all changed. Religion, politics, worldview, you name it.
Yeah, absolutely. That totally makes sense.
And they no longer get along that well. And so there are these divisions that exist deep within the Angara society, and enter the Kett, who purposefully play different beliefs of Angara society against each other. They play different elements of the Angara against each other. And when the Angara become most divided, the Kett choose then to invade and conquer.
That sounds like absolutely. If you were on the side of the Kett, that sounds exactly like the playbook that you would use. And human history shows that is, of course, the playbook you use. An invading force, a domineering force, almost always, if they can divide the group among themselves, can then suppress them and conquer them and keep them divided. And I just keep that in mind when you're arguing with your neighbors about things that don't actually matter, and the people who have all the power are lording over you. Just keep that in mind. But anyway,
in other words, in pizza terms, if you look at a full pizza, it's a little daunting. But if you cut it into slices, you'll be finished with the entire thing before you know it. And you'll be dissatisfied looking in the mirror. No, I'm kidding.
Which is why I set up my treadmill underneath my desk again.
He's actually running right now. You can't tell this, but he's sprinting full speed. I digress. The Kett, they've been doing, they don't reproduce sexually, like we've already talked about. They only do this through exaltation.
Right. It was just super weird, but yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Very religious type of assimilation into the Borg. And they've been doing it so long that they eventually just make a serum that can turn any other alien into a Kett, which is their form of reproduction. It's also a very cheap way to build a huge army. It's basically like, Army of the Dead, the zombies, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so the Kett annihilates the Angaran military very early on, and they turn tons of Angara into their own troops. So what's left of the different armed forces of the Angara, the different underground resistance movements that do exist against the Kett, they're very fractured. And it stays that way. And they keep losing strength in these feudal guerrilla attacks for decades.
Okay, so there's, like any good story, something changes, right? So what changes here?
Right. And then there's this one Angaran badass named Efra de Turshav.
Rambo.
Yes. There's one Angaran Rambo who unites the different resistance chapters under one banner, thus creating the Angaran Resistance. Previously, it was just small chapters of resistance, separated by basically not planning anything with them amongst each other. And this happens around 4 years before the player meets them in Mass Effect Andromeda.
Okay. So this sounds a lot like a lot of other stories, right?
Yes.
This is King Arthur uniting the lands of Britannia, or this is Talos in the Elder Scrolls coming and uniting the lands of Tamriel finally under one emperor's banner. Or this is
very similar to Elder Scrolls, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it is. But I mean, even historically, this is like, Rome uniting the Mediterranean world under, one group. And obviously they weren't being assimilated into some zombie alien species, but they were still fighting against other groups outside of them. Right. Or this is, the Chinese, right? This is the battle of, or the war of, what was it called? It was what formed the original Chinese Empire. I forget the
dynasty.
The dynasties of China all coming underneath that one, whatever it was. The names are escaping me. But almost this story happens time and time again, where you have some leader or some group that shows up and organizes a bunch of disbanded groups or individuals or whatever under one banner. And it's like, guys, I've got this brilliant idea. And for some reason, that person just has the thing that makes the difference, and everybody follows them,
Right. People stronger together.
Right. Yeah. If we all stop arguing and stop doing things differently and just figure this all out and work together and follow me.
That's the operative thing. Yeah.
Right. Then we're all going to be, we're all going to be real good and we can win, Yeah. And like this story gets told over and over and over again. So, and
there's power grabs, you know what I mean? Like not always does that succeed. Not always does. Like often it remains, and it's such a bad reflection upon human history that sometimes those unification efforts do not succeed because of egos.
Right. And sometimes that leader quickly turns and burns that into the ground, how many French revolutions were there, or like those kinds of things. Right. Or that kind of thing turns into Germany in both world wars. That wasn't a unification. That was a attempt at, domination over Europe. But again, we've talked about this before. The story is told by the conquerors and the winners of the story. Was unification of city-states in Greece unification or domination? Which one is it?
Right. And to put this in perspective, this is like So it would be hard enough to coordinate different people in different states like it was for the United States to fight the British in the 1700s.
Sure.
But imagine trying to coordinate different peoples who have been separated by literal light years between different planets for I don't know how long. And their cultures have evolved and they're different, although they're the same species. But you're trying to coordinate fractured resistance movements among those different people on different planets, and and you don't have the communication infrastructure that you once had. And yeah.
Another thing that I think is really interesting about this, and this is one of those theories about evolution, is that one of the reasons why we're not seeing significant jumps in evolution in the human genome is because we aren't bottlenecked. We are a predominant species on the planet. We are not lacking in the ability to share our gene pool and expand it. We're not having to deal with situations where we are limited in genes and having to overcome those limitations.
Right. There's no fire under our ass.
Right. And none at all. Absolutely none at all. But if you were to take some humans and put us in a very limited situation, say, whittle us down to 1,000 or a few hundred people and put them, say, on a starship or on a colony somewhere, that specific group of people would be a very limited gene pool. And on top of that, they would have to survive in a very specific kind of situation under very specific circumstances. Limited amount of oxygen, limited amount of type of environments, limited also resources, all of those types of things would occur. And this is exactly what the Angarans are going through here. They have colonies on these different planets under very specific situations, and they've been whittled away. And in some of the situations, I bet their populations are very, very limited. And and you have a very who knows how much time has gone by for them to advance technologically for space travel. So probably generations. I would be very surprised if some of those groups of Angarans haven't evolved in some distinct ways from each other. Not to the point where Go ahead.
It could make some populations of Angaran resistance on some planets highly skilled against the Kett in certain ways, but very sorely lacking in others.
Right, and not to the point where they couldn't procreate, or to the point where they're no longer Angarans, but they may physically look very different from each other. So some of those locations might have very different amounts of gravity or very different amounts of oxygen or different food sources or whatever. Their skins might change. Their heights might be very different. Their muscle mass might be very different. Their eyesights, their basic senses might change. Their hearing might be very different.
Language, of course.
The language would be very, very different.
That would be the first thing to change.
Their culture, their customs, all of those things. But even physically, how their bodies function, their brains, their ability to problem solve, their intellect, all of these things could be very distinctly different among each of these groups over time, so that each of them would be leaning on the things that they think make them distinct and different and better than the other groups. So that would lead to strife across each of these groups. Well, we're the smart ones, so we should be the ones leading the fight against the Kett. But we're the ones who are the toughest because we've had to survive on this planet that's like the ones the Krogan, survived on. We're the ones with the, tough outer shell, and the ones that can have to deal with the crazy gravity. And and obviously this is not core to, actual in the game. But the concept of we would be the ones that would be, we're the tough badass ones who have evolved to be able to have to, deal with these kinds of things. We should be leading it because we're the toughest, all of these things make sense in a real world kind of situation, because theoretically that's what would have happened. If human beings were in this kind of situation and real world evolution was at play, that's exactly what you would see, is that if you took humans from each of these situations and lined us all up in a room, we would all look very different. And some of them wouldn't even be able to stand up in Earth's gravity anymore, or even breathe oxygen on our planet, maybe.
Let alone bureaucratic organization. You know what I mean? You get humans in the same, like, you can put humans in the same geographical, like 10 square mile distance, and the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And let alone separating humans by light years.
Right. I mean, just look at the political distance within our own country. You know, the left and the right often don't even use the same words to mean the same things anymore. And we're living in the same country. Imagine people who live light years from each other and haven't talked in generations.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Do those words even mean anything at all that's similar? You know, like, yeah. So I can imagine that getting back to the point, the burden on the shoulders of the individual who would actually be capable of getting all of these groups back together and uniting them must be monumental. And props to that person, right? This
takes a lot.
Evfra, how do you pronounce their name? Evfra de Tershov must be a freaking genius to be able to do this.
Or just has considerable intestinal fortitude.
Right. So anyway, that's my little rant about how this situation is really, really freaking cool. Like when you actually get down to the nitty gritty about like the details of what this would have been actually like on the ground, like really, really cool.
Yeah. And also a testament to how hardy the Angara are, that they weren't just wiped out completely.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if we get more content around this kind of stuff, or we get more content, you know, with Mass Effect 5 and like evolutionary stuff, I think that this would be really cool to dig into some of these kinds of things. Like not just seeing like more Turians or more whoever, but seeing variations on them based on like situational evolution.
Yeah.
I think would be really, really cool.
This Angara has massive gills. And
Yeah, right.
This one's mane is emaciated.
Yeah, because I think they would be all very different depending on where they live, because that's just kind of how it would work. But anyway, I want to learn more about this guy, but we need to take a mid break and thank our patrons. And good news, because we're dividing up these mid breaks on 2 separate episodes. These are going to be even shorter, so we won't be very long, and we'll be right back to talk about more about the Resistance. So hang on.
Message coming in. Patching it through.
I am sovereign, and this station is mine. I like the sound of that.
All right, so here we are in the middle of the show, and on this one, we won't be reading any reviews. We're only going to be talking to our new patrons and thanking them for signing up. And this week, we had a new sign up by Mary H. Thank you for joining our Patreon. And that means that we're up to 45. Yes, 45 patrons. And a big shout out to Hool the Fool, Apollo, and Pipe Man for being our Shepherd Tier 5 patrons. Thank you to all of you guys. And a reminder that since we are doing these on Mondays now, we're shooting to also do our patron episodes on Mondays. But please let us know. We want to make sure that this is 100% okay with our patrons, our Tier 4 plus patrons. So if any of you guys think that this is like a total deal killer, if this really upsets a lot of you guys that we're not doing it Sunday nights instead of Monday nights, let us know. We're still flexible. We can always adjust. But if we can keep all the episodes on Mondays, that'd be awesome. But please let us know what you think. Otherwise, we'll keep these on Monday nights just like usual, which means that next week on the 28th is our patron episode, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. And we look forward to chatting with all of you guys. And just a big hey, if you want to help support our show and get some cool stuff like ad-free episodes and t-shirts and joining us on future episodes of the show. And if we've done anything to help you get through your workday or your drive to work or your workout or eating way too much pizza and feeling like you need to install a treadmill underneath your desk so that you can walk while you're working and playing video games, then go to patreon.com/Mass Effect Lorecast and check out all the different tiers. But that's what we got for our patrons this week. Thank you guys. You guys really do make this possible. So thank you to each and every one of you guys. All right, let's move on with the rest of the show.
Spit it out, or are you trying to build suspense?
You're so dense, sir. Obviously, I do not know as much about human relationships as I thought.
All right, so let's talk about this badass.
Yes, let's. Like I said, Ephra unites the splinter factions, and he already has a reputation from having led this really high profile raid on a Kett slave labor camp and freeing a bunch of Angara. So he becomes a hometown hero, so to speak. So Ephra sees for presumably decades, because the Kett invasion happened in 27, I forget the year exactly, but it was decades before the player arrives in Andromeda. But for decades, Ephra sees how hopeless fighting the Kett is with these small, withering, separated resistance groups, right? Probably sees Angara dropping left and right on different planets, and just sees, this could have been avoided if we coordinated with this group, diverted these resources here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
He sees
bigger
it
picture
from a macro.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he sees these groups just failing, withering on the vine. And it's because they're separated. It's because they're acting alone. And he takes it upon himself to get all the local leaders together and get them all in line, which by itself sounds like a monumental task.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds huge.
Like, I can't even imagine how hard it would be to get like 5 people on the same page when they've been used to running the show by themselves.
Yeah. Like he bribed them all with pizza.
That's probably what happened.
That's probably what it was. Pizza and beer. That usually works.
Yeah. He's like, okay, guys, listen, I need you to come over. I've got this really great multi-level marketing scheme that I need to talk to you all about.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
Yeah.
No, that's not the hook. That's what you hit him with after you get him there.
Right. You can make a lot of money selling these fruit juices. All you need to do is give me your money first.
Have you ever considered plastic bowls that fit inside each other and have covers that keep your food fresh?
The one thing your soldiers need to defeat the Kett is more energy drinks. Yeah. No, they get them all together, and they, he forces them in line. But by the way, this Angaran military, or this Angaran Resistance, becomes the Angara military. It's a stand-in because the Angaran military was completely destroyed during the early parts of the Kett offensive.
So they've had no military. So this is like, I mean, that's probably a good reason to bring everyone together. I mean, a good pitch, right? Like, right. Hey, guys, we don't have any defense against anything. Maybe we should talk.
Yeah. People stronger together. Again, really advanced concept.
Yeah.
Apparently it is nowadays anyway. But the Resistance is really organized. It's only organized under one banner shortly before the Nexus arrives. We don't really understand the exact timeline there. But we do see the evidence that it has only recently took shape, because it still doesn't look that capable of a fighting force when we run into them in Andromeda. Mm-hmm. Andromeda being the game, Andromeda.
Right.
In fact, we don't have a good idea of a lot of things about the Angaran Resistance. There's so much we don't know. Part of that is, in my opinion, breaking the fourth wall. Part of that is probably because this storyline did not get fleshed out over 3 games like the original trilogy did.
Right. Yeah, it'd be like doing an episode on the original trilogy and only having the first game.
Right. We just don't know that much. And what we do know, we can gather from dialogue, but there are very limited external opportunities like terminal entries. You know what I mean? Like secondary notes and things you might find. They exist. Don't get me wrong. They exist. But like, for example, we don't have a good idea of what the total Angaran Resistance's strength is. But we know without the help from the Andromeda Initiative, aka the Milky Way species that are there, without their help, they are going to lose that fight against the Kett. That's what it seems like. It does not seem like they could do on their own.
Gotcha.
So a lot we don't know. A lot we don't know about the Resistance. We also don't know, for example, we don't know what ranking structure there is. We see clearly that there is definitely a hierarchy where Ephra is at the top. And it seems that there are local commanders. But beyond that, we don't understand what the hierarchy is. Like, we don't understand if they even have like a Spectre's branch. You know what I mean?
Right.
We don't get that. We don't know if their soldiers are paid.
Yeah. Right.
As far as I know, we don't know.
Or they're just conscripted and just like sent off to die.
Could very well be conscripted because in dire straits like they're in, that would make sense. Right. Not sure it would make sense with the governmental structure that the Angara have. But for example, we also don't understand what kind of combined arms the Angara might have. We understand that the Angara have this photoelectric ability within their skin that in theory might allow them to use biotics, but we don't see that kind of thing. So when it comes to different types of troops, I don't know if there would be a wider variety than what we see with Milky Way species. And we also don't understand whether, like, to what extent does the Angara Resistance have a policy-making authority? We've seen different things in different video games where where de facto military during times of strife is often given legislative ability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case for the Angaran Resistance.
Right. So it's all just kind of cloudy.
Yes. And we do know the Angara still do have like a form of government, and that they are kind of huge proponents of a kind of form of democracy, I guess. An exhaustive debate form of democracy. But like I said, we don't know a lot. And we do know that their recruiting efforts are failing. We know that they're not attracting a lot of people. According to a status report sent to the Resistance headquarters on Aya, their recruiting efforts are abysmal in places like Kadara. I'm going to read a excerpt from a terminal entry that we can find, which is a status report sent to HQ. Quote, "Things are as bad as we thought. The deserters don't care about anyone but themselves." So right away, we are keyed in that there are deserters. There are people with low morale low enough that they're like, fuck this, I'm out. Right away, we're keyed into that. Recruitment efforts have found zero traction. Ironically, we've had better luck gaining support from the new aliens. A small group pledged to support the Resistance and alert us to future Kett activities on Kadara. It seems unlikely the enemy would give up on the planet so easily, but maybe the presence of these new aliens has confused them. Regardless, I recommend that we abandon recruitment efforts and instead focus on infiltration of the local population using deep cover agents. I will submit a list of candidates in my next report. Rask. It's recruiting is going so bad there. What they're really talking about is revamping their recruiting office into a field agent spy office.
Yeah. They're like, okay, screw that. Let's just use this for something else.
Exactly. This is a waste of time and resources. And I'd like to focus on the new aliens part of that. They say new aliens twice. And it says, ironically, we have had better luck gaining support from the new aliens. And then it also says, but maybe the presence of these new aliens has confused the Kett. I'd like to focus on that because it appears again with a little digging around the headquarters.
Uh-huh.
And after a little digging, you can find a letter addressed to Ephra, calling him commander to Dayturshav. And it's from an Angara named Voller, who questions the quote-unquote new aliens and Ephra's granting them access. So Voller prefaces this letter with saying, "There's no one questions your thinking, and we all understand that the circumstances we're facing are unprecedented. But however, you should know that the people are talking in the barracks about these new quote Nexus aliens. So there's already some chatter going on and some questionable morale." Back to the letter. "Setting aside how they look, smell, and behave, How can we be expected to trust these things with access to our most secure world?
Smell. I love that.
Yeah, I love the smell part.
Right. I mean, yeah, like you meet something new, especially from another galaxy, and who knows what the thing even smells like. Like,
It also keys us into their priorities. That
Yeah.
smell is a very important thing.
right.
Yeah, like they smell like lies and deceit.
Yeah. They smell like they smell like garlic.
You smell like a liar. But Voller goes on to say the Pathfinder should not be given access to the city without a personal escort. And this distrust of aliens makes sense, right? Like we're already seeing this in the Angaran Resistance, the official Angaran Resistance. Mm-hmm. And this distrust of aliens makes sense because the only other sentient race the Angara have been exposed to that we know of has been the Kett. And look what happened.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Look how that went.
They've got a what's the phrase? They've got a test of one, a sample size of one.
Yeah.
And the sample size came back like super negative.
Yeah. Would not recommend.
Yeah. I tried the alien dish once and I was not impressed.
No. Now these new guys, they smell like hell, and I'm not a fan.
Yeah, they all look weird.
Yeah,
big
they
heads.
say they came from a different galaxy.
They got big heads. That one lady, her eyes are like this. I'm opening my eyes really large.
I'm not even sure the other new aliens like her. I question how she rose to such prominence. She is
That's
not
the
a
other thing I
motive. I
noticed.
cannot get a read.
That's the other thing I noticed. Ryder, is it Sarah? Sarah Ryder?
Yeah, her eyes are nuts.
Her eyes are always like a little too wide. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I know.
It's so weird. Anyway.
Yeah.
I can't believe I remembered her name. I'm so bad at names. Anyway.
Yeah, Sarah Ryder.
Yeah, Sarah.
That's the default name.
Yeah. I'm so bad at names. Anyway, go on.
And so, yeah, this distrust of humans and Milky Way aliens is pervasive even in the official resistance, even among those who are quote unquote friendly or eventually friendly. And even with Ephra, it feels like the player is constantly disappointing him. A good example of this is during the final showdown between the player and Jal. And Jal is a squad mate, but the player Jal and the bad guy of the faction we will talk about in the next episode. Mm-hmm. During that part, it actually kind of is impossible to please Ephra because no matter what you do, he's not happy. And I'm not going to spoil anything too bad there. I'll let players, go and do what they think is right, but don't act because you want to do what makes Ephra happy. I will say that. That's not going to happen. He's gruff. Okay. He's not going to like that no matter what you do.
Maybe this is how he came to power.
I'm thinking it is. Maybe he's got that strong man, facade.
Yeah. Everyone's like, I'm just not doing enough. I need to work harder.
I mean, that's funny too, considering that their culture places such high emphasis on spirituality and compassion, and it turns out, not all the aliens are. It turns out aliens are not immune to hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And so I mentioned that there is this, distrust of human even in the Resistance. Well, to compare that, there's a faction within the Resistance who distrusts outsiders even more.
Okay.
Who dislikes humans even more, who dislikes the initiative much more. And this faction is not afraid to do something about it. And so this faction, I can't wait to talk about, but that we're going to save that for the next episode.
That'll be the second episode this week, which we, if you are watching live, are about to do in just another minute. So hang on, live watchers. We'll be back in just a moment. Sam, this is awesome as usual. Is there anything you want to share before we head out?
Yeah. Well, I'm streaming every, let's see, I'm changing my schedule around, but it is still every Saturday, Sassy Ship Saturdays, Mondays, Miscellaneous Mondays, and now I'm doing Throwback Thursdays.
Nice.
So streaming 3 times a week. It is almost uniformly going to be from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern. That's on Twitch at N7 The Legend.
Cool stuff. And So like I mentioned before, this is on Monday nights now. Before this is the Witcher Lorecast. On all of the Robots radio channels, we've got shows almost every night of the week. We're doing podcasts, or like Tuesday nights is Skyrim with my mom. Most shows start around 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Wednesday nights is usually my Fallout New Vegas playthrough, where I'm doing 10 luck and throwing a bunch of dynamite at everybody, and then a bunch of other stuff. And then I might have some random streams during the day, even while I'm just kind of walking on my treadmill, working on stuff or playing games or whatever. So come hang out with me for that stuff. And also, we're trying to get the Mass Effect Lorecast YouTube channel up to 1,000 subscribers. And of course, subscribing on YouTube is free, because YouTube, one, they put out a notification that they're just going to put ads up on everything, whether you are up to the 1,000 subs limit to actually choose to run ads or not and actually get paid for it. So they're going to put them up there no matter what. But we don't actually see a cut of the ad revenue until we get to 1,000 subscribers. So if you guys want to help us out to see some of that ad revenue, please go to the Mass Effect Lorecast YouTube channel and just drop us a sub. Plus, you can enjoy the episodes there and see our faces if you can't join us for the live show. So just,
I checked,
yeah,
we were at like 300 some.
I think we're at like 400 something now. So we're almost halfway there. So if every single one of you who listens to the show were to do it, we'd be there in like no time. But it would only really take a small percentage of our audience to just go over and just drop us a sub, and we could get there, and then we'd make a little bit off of the ad revenue, and we'd actually be even able to control the ads. So we'd even be able to make sure that like you get the ads that you can like skip and do that kind of stuff, and it'd be less annoying. So that would be very helpful, and it'd help just give us a little bit of extra funding, which would be very appreciated. So thank you to everybody who's listening, and I hope you guys look forward to the second episode this week if you are listening, and we'll be right back in a minute if you're on the live show. So thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next episode. See you guys. Thanks for tuning in to the Mass Effect Lorecast. We'd love to hear your opinion and thoughts on the lore of Mass Effect. Reach out to us on Twitter at Mass Effect Cast, or check out the Robots Radio Discord. Also, you can send us an email at masseffectlorecast@gmail.com.